Welcome to Biblical Theology Today. Wanted to do another Ask It Basket question. This is an interesting question. What does Paul mean in 1 Timothy 2? They will be saved through childbearing. This is a passage where Adam and Eve are discussed, and Paul is teaching women to learn in silence in the church. What does it mean they'll be saved by childbearing? Well, this is the text. We've got a third singular imperative, present. I think this is a present active imperative from Monthano. Let the woman Monthano in all submission, hupatage. This is a word that is used to have things in order. Let me see if I can get the lexicon to work here. Hupatasso is the word, and it talks about state of submissiveness, subjection, subordination. And so this is a difficult passage, and Paul is saying, let the woman Monthano in all hupatage. But for a woman to teach, I do not permit, nor to althentane over an andros, aner. So is this woman or wife? Is this man or husband? So both these words can be used that way. This is a challenging text, and if we toggle, the question is, what does it mean they will be saved through childbearing? Well, when we look at this and look at the root of the word, Monthano, let them, you can see these are just some of the standard lexica. Let them learn, comprehend, hear, to learn by inquiry, to learn by study or practice, to learn or be instructed. When I see this word Monthano, what strikes me is that it's related, and you can see here, this is from Logos Bible Software, and they are giving us the root and then all the words that are related to that root. So mathetes is actually the word disciple. So when it talks about the 12 disciples, this is the word that's used, and you can see it's used 261 times. And Monthano is used 290 times. Interesting here with the alpha privative, to not be a disciple is to be ignorant. There is a word used once of a female disciple, but all of this is related to the word learn. And a woman is to learn in silence, and she's not to althentao. I think the actual form here, althentane. I do not permit for a woman to teach, so that we get the word like didactic from this word, to give the good things. I do not permit for a woman to didasko, nor to althentane over an aner andros, but to be in hesukia. And you can hear that word, the peaceful silence. And the argument is for Adam was not formed first. Adam was formed first, and then Eve. And Adam was not deceived. And this word is interesting, apatao. he was not deceived, but the woman, and you perhaps can see that there's been a transition from the simple form to the compound form with ek, X here, epitao. The Adam was not deceived, but the woman was ex thesos, so that's your aorist passive participle. And you go from the simple form to the complex, which, if other things being equal, this would be deceived, and this would be like thoroughly deceived. And so before we ever get to being saved by childbearing, it's like, what in the world is going on there? Well, it's interesting to me that in the midst of this argument and what all these words mean, is that deceived to being thoroughly deceived is interesting, because when Paul is describing his own realization of his sin, he says, when the law came, sin sprang back to life, and then he says, and I died. And then he says, and so the commandment that should have resulted in life was found to me, this command to result in death. So he's saying, I was alive once apart by the law, but when the law came, this sin thing sprang back to life, and when that happened, I died. And then it's very interesting, his argument for the law taking a base of operation through the command. And then notice we have our deceived word here. It deceived me. And notice it isn't just deceived, it's the compound form, like deceived the daylights out of me. And through that commandment, it killed me. I think that what Paul's thinking about in his argument here in 1 Timothy, when you look at biblical theology, what he's doing is he's reading the story of Adam and Eve in light of the meta-narrative, that it's pointing beyond itself to a greater spiritual truth. So it isn't just Adam and Eve doing things, it's Adam and Eve doing things as foreshadowing what ultimately Christ and the church will, how the story will play out there. And so I think that it shifts, she will be saved through childbearing if they remain. So you've got this tension that you have in Adam and Eve's story where, when it says Adam or the Adam, is it talking about Adam as an individual, or is it talking about Adam as representative of the human race? And I wonder if Paul isn't doing some of that with Eve in this story, that Eve is not simply an actual factual historic person and event, but that at the same time she's foreshadowing the ultimate story of Christ and the church. And so the shift there from she will be saved through childbearing if they remain, I think is looking forward to the seed of the woman that will crush the serpent's head. And so it's very interesting. It's not the seed of the man who will crush the serpent's head. It's the seed of, at least the first promise here, the seed of the woman. And so I think it's shifting from Eve as the person to Eve as the typological one, to point forward to all those who are going to be saved, both men and women. And I wonder if that's why Paul chooses this. The woman was deceived, thoroughly deceived in the transgression, for a long time, I wondered where Paul was getting that in this story, and I'm not certain, but I think he's just reading the detail when God confronts Adam, and he asks why. He says, well, I was afraid because I was naked. I hid myself. Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten? The woman, God says to the woman, here it's Eve, what have you done? The woman said, the serpent deceived me. And I think Paul is picking up that the woman said that she was deceived, and Adam didn't say he was deceived. And I think when you kind of tease that out, what's going on is the serpent thought he could leverage the beauty of Eve against Adam, and that Adam would choose his beautiful wife over God. That's certainly a character flaw that seems to be in all the men who follow Adam. They seem to be often tempted by beautiful women to turn away from God. And I think in the meta-narrative, there's only one son of God who can marry a daughter of Adam. And his solution is to give her a new heart and to make her beautiful, to make her a new person. But he's not being captivated by his eyes. He's choosing to love in the right way. So I think part of that's going on. So in 1 Timothy 2, what did we say it was? 14, 2:14 maybe. I think what's going on is he's reading that story and he's saying Eve was deceived. But when he's saying Eve was deceived, I think it's typological of all the people who will ever be saved. And I think that's why he picks this same word and applies it to himself. He's saying when the law came, sin deceived the daylights out of me and through that killed me. So I think here we're justified in seeing that meta-narrative is still in play, and that's why you have the shift from she will be saved to if they remain. Now, if we want a little help in this, a great place to go is this exegetical summary of 1 Timothy. That's the Summer Institute of Linguistics excellent resource where for Wycliffe Bible translators, they've collected all the commentaries and summarized them. And this work is a fantastic work. I use it all the time. And so it asks the question, what is meant by she will be saved? But if we go earlier, they ask our exact same question. To whom does the third singular, she will be saved, refer? And notice she refers to all women collectively. So Timothy Luke Johnson takes that view, the ICC, host of these other commentaries as well as translation. The subject, she shall be saved, refers to women in general. So a lot of people take that view. A nuance of that is the formal reference is first of all to Eve, but then it's implied to all women generally. And then the view that I've taken, I think, is pretty close to this. Paul is not talking about Eve in isolation, but she is used as a typological parallel representing the Ephesians women. I can make this a little bigger. Some take it to any Christian parent, what's meant by saved, and you can see they're talking about eschatological redemption, what is meant saved through childbearing. Many take it as the process of giving birth. I think I take it of giving birth to the child. So I'm not sure. The New International Greek Testament commentary, for some reason I can't see the bottom, so I don't know whose that is. But this is given in the CEV translation and the NLT. I'm taking this basic position. This is consistent with the normal reading through. And you can see some take it physical childbirth. The other place I like to look is this ancient Christian commentary on Scripture. And you can see all the way back, Theodore Mopsuestia died in 428. He takes the view all women. Ambrosiaster, the Star of Ambrose, is an anonymous Pauline commentary that was once thought to have been composed by Ambrose. Salvation comes to women through childbearing, applies only to the children who are reborn in Christ. So you can see that people often have wrestled with our same question. Of course, Pelagius has an idea too. But for me, I think given that he's thinking of the meta-narrative, that he applies at least this word to himself, I think this is probably looking forward to the promise that the seed of the woman would crush the serpent's head. And it isn't salvation automatically to everyone, but to those who are believers, and that belief is expressed in faith, love, and holiness with, love this word, wiseness of thought or something like that. So it's a very interesting question. What does it mean? It's a common question that Christians have asked. I'm taking the view that Paul is doing this Christocentric metanarratival reading of the Old Testament, so that whatever the answer to that question is probably tied up with that idea. That's my idea. I'll be interested to see what you have to say, and always I look forward to talking to you next time. Thanks.